Alpha Gingers. We are here today with confidence coach Meshaelle Pate. As a confident coach, Meshaelle helps women embrace their life and have the confidence, contentment, and commitment to live their dreams. So welcome, Meshaelle. We're so excited to have you today and to have this be a topic of conversation.
Well, thank you. I am so excited to be here. I think this is a topic that more moms need to talk about.
So I am a recovering people pleaser, and today we're going to talk about being a people pleaser. And I don't think this is a topic that gets talked about enough in our industry. So first, tell us, what is a people pleaser?
You know, it can be, it's a sliding scale. So there is no like, oh, if you do this, then you're a people pleaser. But it's really the core issue is you suppress what you're feeling to make someone else happy. And how you do that, how that all manifests in your life is, like I said, it's like a scale. Some people are great with certain situations, and then other situations they just suck and they give in and they're always just, and they're pouring out of themselves versus pouring into themselves. So that's how I define people pleasing. When you basically are suppressing how your feelings and what you want in order to make them happy.
Would you say that women are more prone to be a people pleaser than men?
Yes, obviously I would say that, but I'm not a man either. So I think men can have it too, maybe in workplaces or careers that they've picked to please other family members, to please their dads. So I work with women. I don't really work with men. So I try not to make that generalization because I think it just manifests in different ways. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So I was just wondering, what really is the downside of being a people pleaser?
The downside, and that's it. It's a scale. So sometimes you're like, oh, it's okay to be a people pleaser. But the problem is, remember my definition is you're suppressing how you feel. So you are kind of dying inside a little bit every time you please somebody else. I'm not talking about like things that you don't care about. I'm talking about the things that you actually have an opinion, a desire, or want, and you suppress that for them. And so eventually what happens is you just start not knowing who you are. You've kind of forgotten your own identity. You've identified as someone who makes everyone else happy. And so that's, to me, the downside of people pleasing is you just disconnect from your own personal emotions. You can tell what other people like, and that's one of the things. Like if I say, what is it you like, and you go, I have no idea what I like, but okay, what is your daughter like? Well, she likes this, this, and this, and this. What is your husband? Da 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 da. Then you kind of need to go, am I more concerned with how they feel than I am with how I feel?
Exactly.
And that's the downside, is you literally start losing your own connection to yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's really easy too when you do have young kids, I think it's an interesting transformation as your kids are younger, especially if you've got more than one. It's really easy to focus on them and to put everything else aside. And then as they grow up and they get into high school, they get more active and you have a little bit more time on your hands to question, what do I do with this time? Who am I now? Because you've given so much of yourself to being a mom, that especially if you're a stay-at-home mom or if you work full-time and you are just busy, and then trying to find that juggle, it's really easy to just forget who we are.
It's a very easy process. It happens. It's not just like you wake up one day and you go, hey, I think I'm going to just forget who I am from now on. It's a slow piece that you give away, and then all of a sudden you crash. For me, I was sitting on the couch and going, am I going to sit here forever and wait for them to need me? Or am I going to do something? And if I want to do something, what do I want to do? And who am I to even decide I want to do something? But yeah, little kids, obviously, you give to them. I'm not saying you look at your little 2-year-old and go, excuse me, I'm not for you today. It's about me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying find the little things. Even with a 2-year-old, they don't always have to have their music on when you're in the car driving around.
Right.
You can put on your music. Okay, please, let's not go for the explicit music maybe, but you can put on stuff that you like. If you like 80s rock, your kids might learn to like 80s rock instead of
it's funny you say that, because when the girls were little, I love 80s music. It's just my time. And we would listen to it, and you kind of listen to it a little bit different. But when they're singing Pour Some Sugar on Me, there's a problem. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, okay, we need to kind of change this. But they know all the words to all the 80s music because we did listen to it so much. So.
But that's a small thing for saying, because I remember, I just got in the car and I put on their music and I didn't even think about it. And there would be almost this rage kind of after a while if we had to go so far. I'm like, I cannot listen to Barney anymore. I don't care, Barney, if you love me. And so eventually, that's the other side, is it kind of turns around and becomes almost a resentment towards the person you want to please.
Yeah.
Because of giving yourself away. So before you get to that place where the rage is just kind of getting there because you just don't want to hear the music anymore, maybe it's a no music ride. That's okay too. The kids can learn how to, and that's just one example. One simple, how to put yourself on your calendar, on your to-do list, on your things, even when the kids are little. As the kids get older, of course, allow them to do more things. Step away. They don't have to be happy all the time. We have this, and I think it's gotten even worse, but we have this mentality that moms are supposed to make their kids happy. They're not supposed to be bored. They're not supposed to have chores. Mine didn't. That was my issue. I had all the chores were mine. So when I had kids, I was not going to make my kids do chores. So I took them all on, and I look back and I'm like, that was not balanced. And I was, just, they don't want to do it, so I'll just do it. And that was my philosophy forever. It's like, I'll just do it. I'll just do it. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to do it anymore. And then I kind of get mad at them, and they look at me like, but you've done this. What are you getting mad at me for now? And it was unfair because I had set up the expectation that I was going to do everything. And then the resentment came, and I resented that. That's where we have to identify that we're doing it before we get to that point. And there's like all kinds of ways we people please. Like I said, it could be when we have kids at home. It could be making food that they like, that you just don't want to eat you don't eat, can't eat. And so you either don't eat at all because that's what they want for dinner and you can't eat it, or you don't want to eat it. That's people pleasing. There's kind of finding a compromise and allowing your kids to kind of compromise with you is okay. But I think as moms, I'll take it on. I'll suffer. I'll do it and let them be happy. It's okay. And we have this saying in society. I heard it and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally believe that. And now I'm like, it's a problem though. And that mom cannot be happier than her saddest child.
Yeah.
We hear that it's almost like an indictment. You're not allowed to be happier than your saddest child. And as your children grow, you have to allow them to experience their own emotions. And that is, as a mom of 2 young adults, that is harder than any 2-year-old tantrum.
It is. I think it's really important to help them label what those emotions are, as they go through it, so they can know what sadness is, or they can know what being hurt is.
Yes.
And helping them through that, or listening to them as they're going through it. But I think, we're forever teachers as moms. We have so many hats as moms, and I think that's just one of them too. but I think it's important for us not to own what they're going through. It's their thing. We're there to teach, almost kind of like not a friend. You're a parent, not a friend. You're a teacher, not a friend, but you love them no matter what. But we're there to just help them grow and be strong and to just nurture them through it by teaching them. And so being able to label each thing that they go through so they can understand what that is, I think is important.
And I think that happens earlier, like when they're still preteens and teens. Like I said, mine are both off on their own. So even being a teacher sometimes is not what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to be taught through it. And that is hard. And the people pleasing part of me is like, oh, let me rescue you. Let me take all the consequences. Let me help you. And that's where I've had to step back and allow my kids to own what they're going through and not rescue them, not people please them, And so that's hard, but it is necessary.
It is necessary. And, being a mom of a daughter who now has a child, it's really important to listen and not give advice. And I'm really good at advice sometimes with my kids. And so it's really me stepping back and just waiting for her to ask. And sometimes that's hard because you want to fix it. We're used to fixing it. I'm used to fixing it. And I'm getting better at that. It's I guess they're the teacher now. So it's kind of changed.
And that's, and going back to the people pleasing, where all that comes in is we're kind of conditioned to make it better for everyone. That's the thing. That's the people pleasing part of it, is we can make it better for them. So let's make it better for them.
So mine's a little flip-flopped. I would say since I've had a child, I'm less of a people pleaser. I spent my teens and my 20s a chronic people pleaser with no thought to what I really wanted and needed. It was just all about making the people in my circle pleased. Yeah. And when I had a child, I realized that's not sustainable. And so I was able to, maybe have more confidence as a person when I am a mom, to say no, to do what I need to do. She's 9 now. So, I kind of got started in the, being a parent a little bit late in my life, but it's a hard road to recover. So how do we recover from being these chronic people pleasers, whether we're pleasing our children or we're pleasing our boss or, our employees, if we have employees, those kind of things?
Well, it's interesting because I think it's the first step to that is to figure out which relationship you tend to give into to people please. And there's, for some people, for me, people pleasing my children was one of my big issues. I wanted them happy. But then I could go out and be with friends or whatever and stand my ground. And so it's figuring out which relationship or which situations trigger the people pleasing. And it could be every situation for some people. Some people just like to take on everything and make everyone happy, and they don't know how. And this first step is to realize you are as equal to anyone else in your life, emotionally and importantly and worthy-wise, as anyone else. Because that's kind of what people pleasing is saying your happiness is more important than my happiness. And when you step back and say, not really, your happiness isn't any more important than mine, and we have to find the grounds to be equally happy. But it's putting yourself back into your life and not being what I call the supporting character. Become the main character again in your life. So that's step number one, knowing that you're as worthy as anyone else in your life for happiness, success, joy, and just fulfillment in life.
On the flip side of that, a lot of times we are trained, I use quotes on that, as young adults, that's selfish.
Correct.
And so being able to, it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, as it's being selfish to take care of yourself. It's selfish to put yourself first. But I think it's really important to note that we have to pour back into ourselves in order to give out. So if our bucket is empty, we're not going to be giving. So I think shifting that into it's okay. And so how would you recommend that to somebody who is really struggling with I've been taught it's selfish. In my head, it's selfish to take care of myself. What do I do at this point?
Well, I think it's coming back and sometimes it's conditioning, and we have to break down those conditioning thoughts. And that's where coaching kind of comes in, because it's not just an instantaneous one thing, do this, now you're cured, It's you come up against situations, and then you get to decide in those situations. And one thing to know is that it's not selfish. And I'm here in the South, and I hear religiously, it's selfish and we're not supposed to. We're supposed to put others first. But I'm telling you, it's not. And I'm not saying you put yourself above. I'm saying you put yourself on equal footing with. And that's
a very important point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying consider your feelings. And if you have strong feelings, then you have a right to voice them. And it's okay. Like I had a situation this summer as I'm, working through this myself, and my son offered to do something for me, something I really, really did not want to do. But I also knew he wouldn't want to do it, but he offered to do it. And I'm like, the people-pleasing side of me is like, no, you're the mom, you just do it, just suck it up, it's going to suck, but just do it. And instead, when he offered to do it, I'm like, if you're offering, sure, I'll take you up on that, and thank you. And that's the thing. I didn't come do it. And he's like, when does it need? I'm like, it's going to need to be done soon, but it doesn't have to be right now. So I didn't tell him, I'm done people-pleasing. You're going to come down here and do this. I said, I have a situation I don't want to do. And he says, would you like me to do this? And I didn't manipulate it. I didn't think anything like that. And I said, that would be great. Partially it was because of his cat. So there's a long story, and that's the other thing.
Cat story.
I have an outdoor cat that left a large gift.
Oh, yay. Was it still alive?
No, it was not. And I don't like dead things. That is like a thing at my house. And my son's a hunter, and, so he's like, you want me to do? I'm like, that would be awesome. It's going to affect you a whole lot less than it's going to affect me to go do this. And when you go back to school, I don't have that option. So I'm going to take you up on it for right now. But yeah. But it was, and it's that I didn't put myself above and say, oh, it's your cat, you need to come down here and do that. It wasn't like that. And I think that's where we get that whole, it's selfish, because people imagine that then they're putting themselves above. And what I'm trying to say is at least just put yourself on equal ground. If you have an opinion, you have something you want or don't want, you have the right to express that. Does that make sense?
Yep. I think that's the important part, is realizing that we do have feelings and emotions and wants and desires, even as simple as, taking care of ourselves each day.
Mm-hmm.
Simple things that can go by the wayside when others' needs become more of a priority. So yeah, it makes absolute sense.
And you had mentioned that there's different levels. Is there like a certain, I'm a level 1 people pleaser, or I'm a level 4 people pleaser?
No, I think that's something you're really going to have to answer for yourself. How willing are you to express an opinion? It was funny because I had have never really had a problem expressing my opinion and my desires and my wants and needs to my husband. I just, that was not a problem. But when it came to my children, I wanted them happy. And that was my thing. When it comes to other people, it wasn't as like, if you're happy, you're fine. I don't care. I mean, I didn't go out and purposely tick them off, but I also didn't bother me if they were upset. But then I've heard people who say, I want the schools happy with me, so I volunteer. Every time they ask, I have to go volunteer, because what if I don't? Then they're not going to like me. Every time there's a bake sale, I've got to have the prettiest things out there, or else they won't like what I baked. And then there's some who, like they're just waiting to rescue everyone, and they're just waiting. So, and I think then there's the people who hide, and these are kind of in that quiz we're talking about later, but people who hide where they don't want to be seen because they're afraid someone might not like them, someone that they don't even know, someone like doing this video or doing this podcast, and someone might not like what I just said. I can't do one because what if they don't like it? It's like, at some point I don't have the right to please. I don't have the responsibility to please everyone in the world. And that's what I'm saying. It's levels. It might just be one person that you kind of have this people-pleasing relationship with. Another way to say that, if some people, is like kind of a codependency, where I'm going to do whatever they need me to do to keep them happy and keep the relationship and whatever. I kind of call it people-pleasing because it can be across the board, but it can also be called codependency.
Like I like to say, someone else's opinion of me is none of my business.
Correct.
You just gotta do you.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yeah. And
sometimes that's easy, and some people are like, I've done me forever, and I have no issues. And then there's people, like myself, who didn't have the most peaceful childhood, so therefore keeping the peace was my main objective.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how, for me, I know mine started very, very young. Then I broke out, and I'm like, screw the world. I don't care if anyone likes me. I was on my own. But then when I had kids, I'm like, I'm not repeating the patterns that were in my household when I grew up. And that's where my motivation was to keep them happy, keep the house happy. Yeah. And in the process of keeping the house happy, I died inside.
So this quiz that we're talking about is something that we will have a link to in the show notes for this episode. In this quiz, people can take, and it will give them a little more insight on what level of a people pleaser you may be. So everyone needs to check that out. I think it's really interesting. And then what was one last thing, Renee, that we wanted to cover?
3 confidence boosting tips, Meshaelle. What would you recommend for 3 confidence boosting tips?
First off, first tip I would say is listen to what you're saying to yourself when no one else is listening.
Ooh.
I think that's the one that's going to get the quotes.
Yes, I think so.
Because right there in your self-talk is how you interact and feel about the entire world. And that right there is what will keep you down or build you up, is how you talk to yourself. Not how other people talk to you, but how you talk to yourself. So that's tip number 1 for confidence. Tip number 2, go back to tip number 1. No. But tip number 2, really, think about what it is you want and just allow yourself to dream. Because I think sometimes that's the other side about when we don't have confidence, we don't have a dream. And if you don't have a dream, you go through each and every day without a direction.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start seeing like, I can achieve that, and then all of a sudden you're achieving even a portion of that, that starts making your confidence go up. And tip number 3, I know this sounds cheesy. People are like, what are you talking about? But all the answers you ever wanted in life are already within you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of finding them and pulling them out sometimes. And sometimes that's where working with people helps get that process faster. But nobody has the answer for you. It's already within you. And just listen to what your inner voice is telling you, and you have all the confidence you need.
That is
I think that's my favorite.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have time for one fun thing.
Fun, yay!
A new thing that we're going to do with our guests that come on, that are brave enough to come on to our show, get to be a little bit a part of a new web series that we're doing called 5 Minute Happy Hour, where we play a game. So we're just going to do one round of Would You Rather.
Alrighty then.
So Meshaelle gets to answer and Renee gets to answer. Would you rather wear only 80s clothes or wear only 80s hairstyles?
For how long? Forever?
For the rest of your life, Renee.
Oh my God.
Hairstyles.
I'm going to go with hair. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Hair is better than the clothes.
If it's forever, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there was mullets. There was, yeah, you can do like a Joan Jett kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep. I said we got options in the 80s hair, but clothes, come on.
I could put that 80s hair in a hat. I would be good.
You just hide your hair for the rest of your life.
Ponytails, they work, or just shave it off, whatever.
Sinead O'Connor.
See? We're good.
See? Thank you. That was fun.
That was fun. Yeah. Okay. So great, everyone. Meshaelle Pate, she is on the web. You can work with her. We will have a link to her website in our show notes, along with the link to the People Pleaser quiz. Please, everyone, take it. It would be so much great information.
And then share the results. If you're comfortable with it, share the results here in the show notes.
Yeah. Or you visit us over on our Facebook page, Grass-Fed Gingers, and there we love getting feedback in that group. But yes, so great. Thank you, Meshaelle, for being on today. We thoroughly enjoyed it, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Meshaelle.
Okay,